What's good, family? If y'all didn't already know, Buchanim Oshinar was the last public holiday we get this year until Chuseok, so I hope you made the most of it. In any case, the silver lining here is that investors will be getting full business weeks for the next little bit, meaning ample opportunity to figure out this whole investing thing. You're watching Sekkider, and this is part 3 of our Common Uncommon Questions series based on a conversation I had with a friend who is new to investing. Today we're going to be addressing a key question that he asked me. Do you need to go to business school or major in finance to do well in the stock market? I'm sure enough people have guessed the answer that I'll be providing, but today we'll get into why. Now before we continue, we'd just like to remind you that this channel is meant for general education purposes only and isn't meant to replace the legal or financial advice from a paid professional. With regards to this particular series of episodes, we'd like to stress the importance of self-reflection. A lot of this is opinion with illustrated reasoning, but when it comes to investments, it's always healthy to take a fair bit of skepticism regardless of the source. And that includes us. I mean, how else are you supposed to figure out whether or not something is right for you? That being said, no mention of any stock on this site should be taken as financial advice since we can't know what kind of security best suits your needs and your goals. How? Well, we'd love it if you could subscribe to this channel, like this video, and stick with us as we explore ways to figure out whether or not a given asset is right for you. For anyone who's been with us for time already, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. I really hope that we can continue to contribute to whatever it is you're trying to achieve in your personal financial life. Now let's get to it. Alright, so today we're asking the question, do you need a finance degree to do well in the stock market? And the answer to this that we will be providing today is no. Alright, that's it for me this week. No, I'm playing. I mean, kind of. Real talk, the question of whether or not somebody can do well in the market without a degree in finance is not a particularly difficult one to answer, but as with anything, it comes down to context. The main question to ask when aiming to inform your answer, in this case, is what does doing well in the market mean to you? We've explored the concepts of financial goal setting in a previous video from our personal finance series, which you can link to in the top right hand corner of the screen right now. But I'm going to draw from Ramit Sethi's book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, in which he asked the fundamental question, what do you want to do with your wealth? Now the answer to this question, more than any other answer, can help direct your goal setting, and by extension, your expectations of what doing well in the market actually means. Are you simply trying to get an average market return since they've historically been more lucrative than simple savings accounts? Then you objectively don't need a business degree or even an understanding of a fundamental definition of terms like PE ratio or enterprise value or even know the difference between revenue and income. Just commit to an ETF, buy in at a scheduled regularity, regardless of the price, and hold on to it for 30 years and you're breezy based on historical precedent. Now, are you trying to double or triple the market in the short term to cop a Lambo or finance a vacation? Well, you don't necessarily need a degree as evidenced by the massive windfall retail investors cashed in on last year from stocks like Tesla, GME, AMC, and even Nikola before it got exposed. But as anyone can step up to a blackjack table with a simple and fundamental understanding of the rules, beat the dealer, win big, so too can any waste man dump their wife's boyfriend's Christmas bonus into a stock they know nothing about and still come out 10x. The fundamental consideration to be made shouldn't have anything to do with having a finance degree unless, as is the case with most professional degrees, you aim to actually have a career in that field. Even still, in an article by Business Insider in 2016, they revealed that although accounting, business, and finance majors were proportionally more common to find on Wall Street than any other major, they still only made up about 48% of all employees surveyed. That is to say, even if you want a job on Wall Street, you don't necessarily need a business degree. So doing well in the stock market doesn't necessitate you paying thousands of dollars for a degree in the first place, particularly when there are thousands of resources online, including us, to help you learn the things that you would be learning in business school anyways. The textbooks they use, online for free. The course syllabi, online for free. The networking, well, you're gonna have to pay for that. As with anything, doing well simply comes down to one's determination to learn about what they're doing, their ability to learn by doing, and the development of their self-efficacy over the course of doing. But let's not take advice from me, I'm just a guy on YouTube. Instead, let's get into 2 fundamental concepts by a couple of the world's most famous and all-time great investors, Ray Dalio and Charlie Munger. Now, while Dalio is most famous for his work on principles, available in book form or in short form for free on his YouTube page, though I do suggest that everyone read the book since it's a tremendous work, one concept that he focuses on is a particular paradigm called the Pareto Principle. This is also referred to as the 80-20 principle, but it essentially argues that 80% of outcomes originate from 20% of inputs. Before digging in, remember that this isn't a law or anything, but rather a way of articulating that a vast majority of outputs correspond with a vast minority of inputs, whether positive or negative. So, for example, there's a commonly stated rule that 80% of a company's revenues come from 20% of the company's customers. It's why repeat customers are so highly valued when compared to one-time customers, and a concept that was exploited by Amazon in the early stages where they consistently took losses on sales of their items in an effort to establish repeat customers. Thus, for companies to at least tread water, they could simply cater to their core audience of repeat customers who make up a vast minority of their customers and chill with that. Now this is all fun and interesting, but we're not out here running a business, we're just investing. So how does Dalio apply the Pareto Principle to investing? Well, Dalio is big on being a generalist, and he essentially generalized the concept into a life principle. In applying the 80-20 rule to life, Dalio stresses the importance of remembering the 80-20 rule and, more importantly, knowing what the key 20% is. Quoting from the book, the 80-20 rule states that you get 80% of value out of something from 20% of the information or effort. It is also true that you're likely to exert 80% of your effort getting the final 20% of the value." End quote. If we're to apply this to investing, then the majority of positive outcomes are derived from identifying and exploiting the most important 20% of the effort needed to make those gains. So, for example, for Jack Bogle's acolytes, the most important 20% of investing comes down to identifying the index ETFs with the lowest fees. That's the minimal effort that will set them up for the majority of their desired value over time. The final 80% of the work would be adhering to dollar cost averaging into them over the course of 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Now this may sound easy when thinking from a theoretical and statistical perspective, but sticking with an ETF while watching others rake in massive gains on short-term plays can be a major struggle bus. Still, the Pareto Principle applies here. When it comes to stock picking, it's a similar thing. As an investor, identify the key 20% of effort you'll need to put in, and then do that. For value investors, it can mean simple research to better understand the general situation of a company and screening stocks based on certain carefully selected ratios. For momentum investors, it could mean learning how to identify momentum and volume patterns and applying it consistently over time. In any case, simplifying a process based on an identification of key expectations can help you do well in the market consistently. As Dalio says, any damn fool can make it complex. It takes a genius to make it simple. Luckily, when it comes to investing, the geniuses aren't hard to find, and among the investing geniuses there's one who everybody seems to hold in the highest regard, Charlie Munger. If you don't already know who Charlie Munger is, he's been Warren Buffett's partner at Berkshire Hathaway for decades, and his philosophy is simple. It's very difficult to be a genius, but it doesn't take a genius to not be a complete idiot. Quote, "It is remarkable how much long-term advantage people like us have gotten by trying to be consistently not stupid instead of trying to be very intelligent." End quote. Now, Munger, more than anybody that I've read or listened to, stresses the importance of limiting one's susceptibility to what he calls standard stupidities. How do we do this? Well, it depends on who you ask. To help you better identify standard stupidities, it might help to read books on psychology like Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow, as well as investing books by investing greats like Peter Lynch's One Up on Wall Street, Monish Pabrai's The Down-Low Investor, and Jack Bogle's The Little Book of Common Sense Investing. Or you could, as is common in this day and age, simply watch a bunch of YouTube clips that summarize the points of these books and develop your own amalgamation of the knowledge provided. To summarize, to do well in the market, you really don't need a business degree or to go to business school. What you do need, though, is the capacity to learn, unlearn, and relearn, as well as the determination to do so. Textbooks are there for free, but if you'd rather distill it down to that essential 20%, it may be best to simply absorb the knowledge of the world's greatest investors and emulate them to the best of your ability. When it comes to investing or doing anything well, Munger has a similar adage. Take a simple idea and take it seriously. And the ideas in this video? Well, they just happen to be the ones that work for me. Now, as much as I've argued against the need for it over the past 10 minutes, if you are thinking of doing a stint in a post-secondary business school but are unsure of whether or not it's right for you, Harvard Business School Online offers a 3-course 10 to 12 week program primer called the Core Program, aka the Credential of Readiness program for around $2,200 US. I haven't done it, but it looks like a pretty good low-cost option to figure out whether or not business school is right for you in the first place. Alright, that's really it for me. I hope that nobody misinterprets this as anti-business school propaganda. I can do that in my sleep, but as I've said before, it's not the paper in your hand, but the knowledge in your head that makes the real difference. I know enough people who pulled a 4-year drunken sleepwalk through undergrad and still walked out with a degree, and I'm sure you all do too. If that's not enough evidence, I don't know what to tell you. And to top it off, here's a little bit of unsolicited opinion. Everybody knows that the value of degrees is dropping, but that's not because the demand is low, it's because the supply is getting really high. Do with that what you will. Alright fam, thinking of doing a new what we're watching this week, so keep an eye out because I haven't done that in a while. Otherwise, have a good one.